This is a Flying Cow production.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Great Film Challenge. I, of course, am your host, Clay Johnson, the Flying Cow himself. And here with me, as always, is my nephew, Aaron. Aaron, how are we today, buddy?
I'm good. What about you?
Good. You sound tired. You shouldn't be because
I'm not.
it's like
slept
2:20.
I
was
slept
about
in
to
and
say,
I was upset. And I was like, no.
you didn't want to sleep that late,
I-
or you wanted to sleep later?
No, I didn't want to sleep that late.
Yeah.
Usually I prefer to wake up like by the
with
latest
with
at
day
8 or
left.
9.
Yeah. It's all right. We are recording in the state of Arkansas, and there is freakishly a second winter storm warning. And you can hear our animals are not too pleased about it being stuck inside, and they're probably just excited somebody must have come to the door. So we apologize for all of that. Yeah, we are back to talk about more films from this list. I believe the last time we were here, the wheel landed on The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. So yes, we are going to be talking about The Dark Knight, part of the Christopher Nolan trilogy of Batman films.
Mm-hmm.
And you decided, as part of watching them, that you actually wanted to rewatch all three.
Yeah.
Now, I think you said that there were some that you just didn't remember. Now, you had seen all three. You just didn't remember some of them as well.
Yeah, or as well as I wanted to, which was like the entire reason I wanted to rewatch all three of them.
Sure.
But also just to highlight certain parts of the second movie, which is what we actually had to watch.
Right. Now, before rewatching them, when we did, do you have any idea when the last time you had seen them was?
No.
What about The Dark Knight?
A while
do you think
ago.
you probably watched them all around the same time last,
I
or did
think
you
so.
watch The Dark Knight any more recently?
No, I think I watched them all around the same time.
Okay. So, a few years ago, at least.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I will say The Dark Knight came out in 2008, I'm pretty sure. Yes, 2008. So it came out the year after you were born. You were 1 year old when this film originally came out.
That's when I watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no wonder you didn't remember it. But yeah, it was directed by Christopher Nolan, of course, a screenplay by Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan, and stars Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Heath Ledger, Gary Oldman, Aaron Eckhart, Maggie Gyllenhaal, and Morgan Freeman, among many, many more. But so we rewatched basically the whole trilogy. And obviously we're going to concentrate on The Dark Knight because that was our, the reason for doing this. That's our focus. But in your rewatch of the trilogy, did you come away with a favorite among the three?
Oh. That's actually kind of a hard choice.
Yeah.
I did really like all of them.
Uh-huh.
There were definitely certain parts of each ones that I really, really enjoyed.
Sure.
or just certain performances and stuff like that. But
If you had to choose, gun to head, I've got my finger guns
Yeah.
pointing at you right now, Aaron. Which one is your favorite? Choose or I'm going to poke you mercilessly.
Either I did enjoy the second one, but I think it would either be the first or the third one.
Wow. Okay. All right. So, I mean, I will say that is not common. I mean, obviously your taste does not have to be common, but most people, I think there's a reason that because a lot of this poster, there are a couple where it was like all three, or something like when we get to the Star Wars films, that is the entire original trilogy. They didn't pick one.
Watch that.
There is, with Lord of the Rings, it's all three. Which honestly, with that, that feels like one story. That feels like
it does
like one. But with this, they specifically were like Dark Knight, and I think that is because the popular view is that Dark Knight is the best, and I think that's for a lot of reasons. I think number one, because of the grip that the Joker as a character has on society, or at least American society. It definitely plays into it. But then there's also, the whole Heath Ledger surrounding it. Obviously his portrayal of the Joker was iconic.
It was.
Sometimes to its detriment, because so many people have tried to copy or do like that his portrayal mesmerized people. And I think a part of that was that he died before the film came out. So before the film, even like, we had seen trailers, and so we knew by the time the trailers came out, that his portrayal was going to be really good. And then he passed. And then it, just kind of became that much more of a thing, because here's this really talented actor who just put in this amazing performance, and now he's gone, so it really kind of stuck with a lot of people. So I definitely think that a lot of those things play into it. But there is a drawing line that I think the Dark Knight does. I mean, it's the second in a trilogy. So it's gonna be the one that takes it to the darkest depths, or at least reveal the darkness of our characters the most. And I think it's much more the latter in this one. I mean, it definitely, takes Gotham to a dark place, but you could argue that Gotham is actually in the best shape by the end of this film than it is in either of the other two. But definitely we see, some sacrifices that the characters are willing to make, which maybe seem like good ideas at the time, but ultimately are also maybe not the best decisions. But it's like, it was a hard decision to make. So, I like that aspect of it, definitely. But just kind of briefly, what were your favorite? Because you said that you had favorite parts in all of them. So let's talk briefly about Batman Begins. What were your favorite parts of Batman Begins? Because I think we had talked previously, and you were kind of dogging a little bit on Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow. Did you appreciate it more?
I really
in rewatching,
in rewatching it.
Sure.
I think really the only thing I didn't like, at least remembering it before rewatching it, was the design.
Costume.
But I also,
Sure.
it really makes sense, and it kind of fit with the whole aesthetic of everything else.
Right. right.
for that movie as well, and just the setting. But also, I've not seen any Cillian Murphy movies, of course, besides
Sure.
these. And what's the funny new one that no one shuts up about? Oppenheimer.
Have you seen Oppenheimer?
I did. Yeah,
Okay.
I liked it.
Uh-huh.
But then again, it's also one of those movies that people idolize, like
Sure.
they did with Joker. Even though it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, yeah, that accounts for both the Joker movie and Heath Ledger's. But still, I think even though there can be something amazing, even if still people idolize it
Well, I mean,
and go a bit overboard at times.
Obviously there's going to be something good in it if people have that reaction to it. Maybe
Yeah.
they go overboard with it.
Yeah.
But I think what you're saying is that you can still appreciate that even if you feel like the overall feeling of it is overrated.
Yes.
Sure.
But I really did enjoy. I liked the casting
Mm-hmm.
of just all the characters. I didn't really think there were any that what I was like, I could think of like the better actor for this character.
Sure.
But the ones that were there, I did enjoy, and I didn't know so many off the top of my head and all their best things to like
Sure.
replace and nitpick and all. But I did also kind of like to see the startup and just the story behind it in general
Mm-hmm.
of how Bruce kind of grows as a character as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. I mean, I will say for me, the things that I really enjoy and take away from that is, I love the setup of Liam Neeson as Ducard, but really Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
And kind of the way that works throughout the trilogy. I mean, I feel like it's popular sentiment, but Michael Caine's Alfred is the heart of these movies.
Oh yeah.
I think without what he does in this, it wouldn't hit as hard.
For sure.
Especially at the end in the third film. What I'm about to talk about is seen, I think, especially in the first film, but the care that he has towards Bruce, like
Yeah.
you definitely see that he sees him as a son. He sees him as, he raised him from when he was, how old would you say
Like
Bruce was when his
8 or
parents
10, I would
died? Yeah.
think.
Eight to, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I always think children that look like that are 12. But I mean, it might have been around 8 to 10 as well. But either way, he raised him for a good bit of his
Yeah.
young life, and then obviously the only parent figure for the rest of his life, pretty much. And so, Michael Caine as Alfred is a great thing to see. Obviously, Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox, also a bit of a father figure, but more of like a mentor, even like buddy at times.
Yeah.
But there's definitely like a because Lucius is so much older, there is that respect of, you worked with my father, what my father really wanted, those types of things. So there's that kind of like that Bruce sees in him. I think I think it's overlooked a lot of times, but I think the casting of Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne, also great casting.
Yeah.
I think he gets a little overshadowed, especially in the second film. But I think that he's a great Bruce Wayne and Batman, especially for this version, for Nolan's version of Batman. You see the conflict. You see it definitely is the epitome of the fact that Batman is the real face, Bruce Wayne is the mask,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, I think that he does a great job in that film. And yeah, you know, like you said, Cillian Murphy as Scarecrow is great. I love that he appears in all three of the films. You know,
Yeah.
I even though we don't get a lot of him, I really enjoy Rutger Hauer as the you know, the exec kind of trying to take over Wayne Enterprises and shape it into his own
Yeah.
vision. And then of course we can't forget Gary Oldman as Gordon. Also like just a a a deft performance with a lot of nuance.
Gordon in this was amazing. And I also
Yeah.
think Bale did really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly kind of want to see more of Bale's like movies or shows and performances or whatever he's done.
Yeah.
Solely just because this and what's the other one on our list? American Psycho
Sure.
are the only ones that I've seen.
That you've seen. Sure.
I like brief side note.
Okay.
As American Psycho was interesting. I'm not gonna be like it was a good movie.
Well,
I'm
I
not
mean,
gonna say it was. I'm not saying
we
it
will
was
get
bad.
to American Psycho.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's not one I'm gonna be like, guys, we should watch this movie now.
Sure.
Like randomly, it doesn't
Sure.
make sense, but
Okay.
it's just odd to me because those are the only two, like full on portrayals
Of his that you've seen.
Yeah, Bale's, which I kind of wish I'd seen more.
Yeah. I will say, I think the only lead cast we haven't mentioned here is Katie Holmes as Rachel Dawes. Obviously, she gets recast for The Dark Knight, and she's only the character's only in the first two. But did you have a preference between the two actors, or like if you could have seen one in both, would you have like to see that, or do you think it was fine?
I think, I mean, it didn't really bother me that much. I think I did, even though we didn't see as much as we did in the second one of
Rachel.
Yeah, the first actor.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could. No, because now that I think about it, I think I enjoyed the second actor's performance more because we did see a bit more of her, like actually doing what she did.
Okay.
But also, I don't really remember a whole lot of her in the first movie either.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Rachel Dawes is one of those characters that's really kind of a tool to bring out something in our protagonist.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's famously fridged in the second film, you know, killed as, you know, to see what happens to male leads, which is, you know, an unfortunate use of a female character that could have been way more.
Yeah.
But pushing that aside, let's jump now to the third film. We'll get to the second film. What were some of your favorite things in Dark Knight Rises?
I liked because that one also had Bruce for a bit getting kind of like down, and then he actually had to come back up because there were parts I remember in like the first and second, there are both parts where he was sort of whiny, and Dawes had to help with that a bit, of course, but still in the third movie it actually really hit because he didn't have someone to help. He had to rely on himself and like a few sometimes other people. But seeing him actually like lock in and bring himself back up was interesting. And also like the turnaround at the end of the movie with Talia and Bane.
Sure.
And that it all just kind of brought everything together in a really satisfying way.
Sure.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I will say a lot of people put down the third film, and I will say I do see there are weak parts to it, but I also think that there's a lot of really strong messaging going through it as well. And I actually really enjoy the Bane storyline. I really like kind of the way that Bruce has to be broken down and rebuilt,
Yeah.
through the course of the film. And the way that hope is used as a weapon
Uh-huh.
rather than what you would want hope to be, which is an incentive to overcome and rise above, and ultimately that's what ends up happening. But the way that Bane uses it maliciously is also kind of pointed as well.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that there's a lot to really like about that movie as well. So getting back now to the film that we're talking about, The Dark Knight. What were some of your highlights in The Dark Knight?
I liked I've not seen Eckhart in anything else.
Yeah, he had a moment around this time, and he was in kind of a bunch of things. And I mean, he's still working, he's still acting, he's still doing his stuff. He's just not as prominent as he was in this time.
Yeah. What else? I liked seeing him as Two-Face,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
Yeah,
And the whole psychological aspect of the movie just overall,
right.
and seeing it through all of the characters as well.
Sure.
Of
Yeah, I mean
course,
the way that Harvey Dent is used in this, where he's built up as, the possible legitimate savior for Gotham.
yeah,
Bruce obviously feels like he could take over that mantle because as much as, Batman might be doing good, he's technically working outside the law.
yeah,
And so he wants Harvey basically to do to take over and work within the law to clean up Gotham. But obviously the Joker ends up, using that as a
yeah,
way to kind of flip Harvey, which ends up, where Two-Face is born.
yeah, breaking Harvey and then using him as a tool for
Yeah.
the anarchy or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, just even if Harvey hadn't gone on the spree, which he did, which I will say, I'm always confused because they're always like, he killed 5 people. I think they say 2 of them were cops, but if you count the people that we see him kill, like 100% we know he killed.
Yeah,
There's only about like 4 of them, and only 1 is a cop. So it's like, who was the 5th one? Like a lot of
yeah,
people have said that, oh, he ended up killing Ramirez, even though she got heads. But then other people have been like, no, he killed, a guard that was at the hospital or something like that. It's not clear. But regardless,
yeah,
even if he hadn't gone on the spree that he did, just losing his mind the way that even if he had just like not killed anybody, but just kind of like gone on a tirade on like the news, Joker's work would have been done, because
yeah,
the idea was just to show that Harvey could be pushed,
yeah,
that he could, fall off, and that he was vulnerable. And that's all that was necessary. They had to do a lot of hiding. I mean, because ultimately, I mean, technically, if you at least go by what we see, Ramirez does survive, but
yeah,
she's not in the 3rd film, which means that if she survived, they would have had to suppress her because she saw that he was trying to kill her and all
Uh-huh.
this kind of stuff. So what actually did happen with Ramirez? That's a question.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things that come up, and I will say, even before seeing the film, I was really excited about it because my two favorite Batman villains are the Joker and Two-Face, because of the psychology. Obviously Joker is just chaos, whereas Two-Face is chance, which is a form
Yeah.
of chaos, but it's kind of 50-50.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I was really intrigued, and I mean, I'm not going to say a lot about it because so much has been said about Ledger's performance as the Joker. It's brilliant. It's spot on. But
Yeah.
one of the things that I love that I think not a lot of people do bring attention to is his movement. What he
Yeah.
chooses, specifically the way he chooses to fight. He fights like a coward.
Yeah.
And it's so brilliant to watch because you will
Mhm.
notice the only time he ever punches people, and when he punches, he goes like a madman, but
Yeah.
he waits until they're down or are being held down by somebody else, or he will never fight them on an even playing field.
Yep.
And just it's not just that he picks his spots, it's the physicality. You can tell he's waiting, and he's, when even like when somebody is just down, if they have the chance to get up, he's going to get in a couple quick hits and then he's going to run away.
Yeah.
The psychology of what he did there is just brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so smart.
It fits and it's really in character.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, we talked a little bit about Eckhart. We talked about Ledger here. Anything else that you want to talk about in terms of the acting of this film or anything like that?
I think they all did a fairly good job. Like
Oh
they're
yeah.
all good actors from what I know, even though
Yeah.
I've
Oh
not
yeah.
seen a lot of
Yeah. I mean,
everything.
they're
But
they're
still.
definitely firing on all cylinders. Like I said, I think Christian Bale's performance gets overshadowed because of the giant swings that are being taken by Heath Ledger, even by Eckhart.
Yep.
I think Bale kind of fades into the background a little bit, but I think he's doing great work here. I
Yeah.
think that he needed to not be the most prominent thing in this film, in order for those performances to shine, because ultimately he comes in and still ultimately saves the day,
Yes.
by choosing to take on being the scapegoat and stuff like that. So I think that the performance is what it needed to be, which ultimately I think means that it's successful.
Yeah.
But yeah, was there anything else about this film that you wanted to talk about?
Sleep.
I don't think you need any more of that right now.
Yeah, no. Hmm.
He's thinking, folks. The smoke is thick. Remember, this is your time to think too.
Yeah.
This is what Aaron wants. He wants you to ruminate in the thoughts of the film so that basically you can decide what he's going to say before he has to say it.
No. I'm not sure. I think I did also really enjoy not only in this but also the rest.
Mhm.
Oldman's performance as
Yeah.
Jim Gordon, because
Yeah.
like we don't all no, I guess sometimes we do see some of it. It just depends on which one you're watching.
Mhm.
or which series or whatever. But I like Gordon as a character
I mean,
because he's definitely an
Gordon's,
interesting bridge.
if you compare this to the only other live action Batman trilogy at this time, what started as Burton and then went into I can't even think of his name, but went into the original 4 Batman films. We didn't see a lot of Gordon. It was really just like a side character that we saw on occasion. We didn't really get much character from Gordon. So this is definitely the most in a live action film that we had gotten up to this point. And I think a great portrayal. Because we see, at the beginning in Begins, how he's kind of skeptical of this guy, honestly does his duty by initially going after him, but then realizes that he's actually less corrupt than the police at the time. And then, in this film gets elevated to commissioner and ultimately, counts Batman as, I think, at least an ally, if not a friend.
Yeah.
And then ultimately having to make the decision to point the finger at him.
I love that bit at the end.
Decide that he has to go after him rather than support him. Which, had to be would have been a difficult thing for the character, and I think Oldman portrays that very well. The reluctance with which he smashes the bat signal, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, I think that he does a great job there. But anything else?
Not really. I think just adding on to that a bit, because like it was also in the second where he gets shot, right? Or was that the third?
At least he gets definitely injured in the third. He fakes his death in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
But it was in order to capture the Joker, which ultimately the Joker allowed himself to get, obviously it takes some twists and turns, but so he fakes his death in this one. But yeah. All right, well then I'm going to go ahead and let people know how they can get in contact with us. As always, Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky at The Flying Cowpod. You can also email at The Flying Cowpod at gmail.com. Make sure to check out all of that stuff, everything that we have going on at The Flying Cow. But right now, it is time for us to announce the next film. And typically at this point, we would spin a wheel. However, not long ago, Aaron's mother decided that she wanted to watch a Miyazaki film. And of course, she chose to watch the one that was on our list.
I was going to say, I wish they had a few more, but still amazing.
Yeah. So we are going to be reviewing next time Spirited Away. So I will say it is on HBO Max. If you have that, and if not, I'm sure you can find it, rent it in a lot of other places as well. But be sure to check that out if you haven't seen it before. And but yeah, we will be back next time to review that. But until that time, moo.